Welcome in, everybody. Joe Quills here with you. It's another edition of the Joe Quills Show, and got a lot to talk about here tonight, and we'll get to it in a moment here. Um, we're gonna get to it here tonight, and we're gonna sneak some football in here at the beginning, and then we're gonna be heavy on baseball. We are going to get heavier and heavier into football as the season comes around in about 16 days, I think it is. Uh, 11, well, yeah, 16 days. If you count today as day one, we are about 2 weeks away from the reigning, defending Super Bowl champions in action, beginning of the year, hosting the Dallas Cowboys. And, we're going to get to it here tonight. And hopefully we get to see the first of many great wins as the Eagles will be defending their championship this fall. It should be a fun year, and hopefully another trip to the Super Bowl, and hopefully another parade because there's nothing more fun. It's a championship parade, and I kind of hope the Phillies will win one, or the Flyers would win one, because that way we can see if Philly Mayor Sherelle Parker will do what I suggest and have all championship parades going forward, going up Broad Street to the Art Museum as opposed to going down to the stadium like the Phillies did in 2008 and in 1980. I forget what the Sixers did. I think they just went around City Hall a couple of times, um, but I know the Sixers went down because they ended up at the vet. But maybe we can get some. Maybe we can actually have um, have another team other than Eagles win championships. We can confirm, will they continue to have parades down Broad Street, or will they conform with the Eagles and have them going up Broad Street? But anyway, so we'll get to the good part here tonight. Here, so tonight on the show, the Colts have made their decision on who's going to start in Week 1, and if you see the title of the show, it's not Anthony Richardson. Yeah, so somebody was. I'll tell you the whole story when we get to that. Last night, Mike and I were talking. It was an unplanned thing, but it was something where we went on this tangent. But I'm glad I went on this tangent because I was saying to Mike, I don't know how the suspension would start for Victor Robles for throwing bat in a minor league game. Well, he got suspended today, and I will tell you how long and exactly how that would work. So we got some answers for you. There was an interesting story about Ketel Marte, who's the Diamondback second baseman. May have to take back what I said to Mike last night about him. I'll tell you guys what I said originally after the show, and then we can go from there. Also, an unscripted part. I don't have a story written about this, but it's enough that I just shake my head that this guy's still in Major League Baseball. Tommy Pham. He's with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'll talk about him. And you've pretty much seen what he did last night. And I'll tell you why I want no parts of him on my team. And also, we'll end the show tonight with there was a I think it was in baseball, but there was something similar in football called "You Make the Call." Well, there's this Facebook post. There's this Facebook account, and they put plays in. They post videos of plays that are, um, they tell you plays and they see. Well, what do you think is the result of this play? And it isn't like major league plays where, okay, well, you make the call. I mean, it isn't looking at, um, it's not looking at, major league play. Well, did you get this call right? It's not that. It's like these bush league games, these high school games, um, these little league games, and I'll also question the coach or manager for doing what happened on this play because it makes no sense why they would even try to do this. But we'll get into that as well here on this Tuesday night. Um, so let's get to it here. And I probably shouldn't have my feet up because that's probably the reason why I'm yawning. Anyway, and feel free to chime in as well because uh, you might like example towards the end of the show when we play Joe Quills presents Make That Call, or whatever we're going to call this segment, or People Are Too Stupid to Live. Um, let me know what you think. And also, not just that, but anything here in the show, because we're open to anybody commenting in the chat. So, and last night we were giving our good friend Mickey a bunch of shit because he's a Mariners fan, um, but I digress with that, and we'll get to what we're talking about here. Now, if you notice, and I said this as a joke originally, but I titled this stream Indiana Jones and the Doom of an Upcoming 3-14 season. Well, what do I mean by that? That's because Daniel Jones, will be the starter for week 1 for the Indianapolis Colts. And the agent for Anthony Richardson was not happy about it, as you would expect. And we can also look at a couple of different things as well. So this is from Stephen Holder from ESPN. And I'm also watching the Phillies game right now. And I don't know which one to use here. Home run JT Realmuto, 6-4 Phillies. So the Phillies took the lead there in the bottom of the 8th after giving up the lead in the top of the 7th. Orion Kirkring had a bad outing tonight, but every once in a while you have those bad outings. But enough about that. So Anthony Richardson's future is in flux with the Indianapolis Colts, and congratulations on being Anthony Richardson Sr. because that means despite all the hits and probably the CTE that's sitting in your brain waiting to affect you more when you get older, you knew how to procreate. Congratulations. But anyways, his future's in flux following today's decision to name Daniel Jones the team's starting quarterback. Richardson's agent reacted with disappointment in the move and said he's unaware of his client's future with the club. Yeah, I would be, your top 10 pick, whatever he was in the draft. Should he have been that high in the draft? Probably not. Well, it's fitting because Daniel Jones shouldn't have been as high when he got drafted by the Giants when he was there. So you're seeing two guys here who have been in the same boat. And if Anthony Richardson wants to be the team player and make sure he's ready for the next time he steps on the field, we'll see how mature he is, how ready he is. But Richardson's agent, Derek Jackson, stopped short of demanding a trade. And, this is probably the agent speaking for the player, and the player just saying, not happy, but. Because the one thing is, we saw with Anthony Richardson in year one. We saw that he didn't understand the concept of getting down, and he always seemed to get hurt, especially in that first season. Because it seemed like, there were two givens in the NFL. One was the tush push would be used by the Eagles every game, and Anthony Richardson would get hurt. That was 2 years ago. And we've criticized him on this show before. At least I think I have. Especially when he said he needed to come out of the game. So Derek Jackson, Richardson's agent, stopped short of demanding a trade, but wondered aloud whether Shane Steichen's quarterback decision might have been predetermined when the Colts signed Jones in March to a one-year, $14 million deal. If Jones was going to be a starter from the moment he finished signing his contract, he probably would have gotten a lot more than $14 million. But I don't know their cap situation. Whether you look at when he signed in March or whatever it was, or now. So Jackson said, we have a lot to discuss over his impending conversations with the Colts. Now, the question is, is Jackson speaking for Richardson after? Or is Richardson doing his own thing and just worrying about playing football and getting himself ready for the season and whatever you would do in the final week or two of training camp before the season starts? Because, until you're a week out from your team's first game, I still consider it training camp, even though it's not. But so Jackson says he believes Tuesday's decision and previous situations involving Richardson have damaged the team's credibility. So let me go back to one thing that I think I criticized Richardson left and right about last year. If you remember last year, Richardson was running around scrambling all over the place. He needed to be taken out of the game for a play so he can catch his breath. Now, I don't remember if it's first half or second half, so give me the benefit of the doubt when I mention what I'm about to mention. So, even though it's his second year, do I remember the show Alf? Yes, I do, and I see the name there. It was pretty good, but I didn't watch it all the time. I was, I always had my face in a book or something like that. But anyways, um, I will say this. The fact that you're a quarterback and you asked yourself off the field, and it's not an injury. It's, oh, I'm out of breath because you ran around all over the place. Now, granted, Indianapolis's offensive line isn't that good, and he got hurt first. He got hurt last week, I think it was. It may have been the first game of the year where he had a finger injury from getting sacked. I just think the credibility of being an NFL player is on Anthony Richardson. So if you're saying some of these decisions have damaged the team's credibility, I think the credibility lies in the quarterback. Now, granted, you can say the team has no credibility because they took a flyer on a quarterback who hadn't played that much in college. And if I remember correctly, 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe, well, this is his third season, but when he was drafted, everybody was saying, why are they taking him? He hasn't lived up to the hype. He hasn't realized, hey, the game is much different in the pros than in college. These guys are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. And when they hit you, they hurt more. But Richardson was benched 2 games last year. Part of it was his performance, and part of it was to teach him a lesson. And I don't care if you're a rookie or you're a 18, 20-year veteran like Joe Flacco is, or a 5 or 6-year guy like Daniel Jones. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a subscriber here. Big Mike subscribed at tier 1, so that's one subscriber right now. And you too can subscribe. You go down there to the lower right-hand side and you click on that. You can subscribe to the show. And that's on twitch.tv/Joe Quills. And I will let you know right now as I go over here. That's all my stuff there, even though I haven't done the TikTok thing in a while. There you go. So that's going everywhere right now. And the one thing I will say is I told Mike he didn't have to do that, but he did anyway. The one thing is, and I'm even going to bring up Carson Wentz. When the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, and Mike might have been the same way with me, same boat as me, because we do think a lot alike. We do think alike. Now, when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts, I was saying to myself, why do we need him? Why, when we just signed him to a long-term deal? And two, that's a little high for a guy who's going to be a backup. Now, granted, hindsight being 2020, it was probably the best move the Eagles made. Now, granted, this isn't a situation like Indianapolis where they bring in Daniel Jones, do something along the lines of what they did with the name's escaping me, damn it. The fuck is his name? Sam Darnold. But he was going to be the backup in Minnesota. Then J.J. McCarthy tears his meniscus, and it's a type of meniscus injury where he's out for the year. Sam Darnold proves himself, and he's now in Seattle as a starter. So what Indy did was a prove-it contract, or at the very least, be ready because we know Anthony Richardson's going to get hurt. Instead, Daniel Jones gets the job. And we've learned some things here and there about Carson Wentz over the years from former Eagles. But I will argue when Carson Wentz came back from his knee injury, he became soft mentally. Because he was the league MVP at the time. I think he was secretaried in a Belmont to be the MVP that year. Then he hurt his knee. He saw his backup win the Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden, he gets hurt again. And by the way, the Phillies win again. So then you have another injury. Nick Foles steps in again. Almost gets them back to the NFC Championship game again if it wasn't for Alshon Jeffrey missing a ball and having it intercepted. But then when they drafted Jalen Hurts, when something like that happens and you get somebody drafted that high, you have two things you can do. You can either, even though you want to help groom the quarterback, I don't think it was necessarily the mojo, but you'll see my point in a second. There's two things you can do. You can either fight for your job, or you could be a little bitch. In Carson Wentz's case, he was a whiny little bitch. Now, whether everything that you've heard in the past after he left the Eagles with some of the drama that was caused, whether it was true or not, whatever. But I was saying, even during that final season, Carson Wentz went soft. He was playing too much hero ball. And he's like, oh, well, I was going to be MVP, so I'm just going to do whatever. So everything he did, everything led to him not being what he could have been. And we thank Indianapolis for taking him because, we ended up winning a Super Bowl. But, I just think, we didn't. Well, we won a Super Bowl with him, but, we did win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts as well. But I just think there is a lot of, a lot of stuff that you can say there. But Anthony Richardson is at a crossroads right now. Do I fight to prove myself that I'm going to get this job back or get a job somewhere else as a starter? Or am I going to be a little bitch like his agent is acting right now? Now, we don't know what's being said between Richardson and his agent. But, it doesn't help that his agent, who couldn't hold Drew Rosenhaus's jock if he was given an opportunity, shouldn't be talking trash like that. Especially whether it's social media, press conference, whatever he was doing. Because now, even if you're going to be the team player that you would hope he still is, you don't want the agent doing something totally different. At least I don't think so. So last season, Steichen said at the time that Richardson needed to improve his game preparation. I think he also needed to improve his game awareness, especially when he was scrambling for 15, 20 seconds and had to ask himself out of the game. I mean, if that play happened in the first half, if you had timeouts left, you can call a timeout. I mean, timeouts are valuable no matter when they are in the game. But you could regroup in the first half, where in the second half, you get a little they do seem a little bit more valuable because, a lot of these games do go down to the wire. So I don't know if it was first half or second half. That point is moot. You just got to be aware of all your surroundings. And I don't think he's been aware of everything all the time. But that's just me. But now, I don't know if this is something that Richardson truly feels. I don't know if he's being the good guy here to the bad guy that is the agent, the way that this is written. Richardson said there's no hard feelings. Because the one thing is, if you really think about it, you're one heartbeat away from being the starting quarterback. And, if you're going to act the way that your agent is acting, you're going to be the third quarterback, or you're going to be looking for a job from another team. So you can prove that you're in and you believe in your team, even though you're not the guy, or you can be a whiny little bitch like Carson Wentz and start bouncing around from team to team because we think he's good enough. And then next thing you know, it's like, shit, we were wrong about him. And he was the 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft. Drafted way too high. Because I think it was projected to be middle of the first round maybe, but Indianapolis needed the quarterback. So Richardson said today that Steichen made the decision. That's the decision we've got to live with. But no hard feelings, nothing personal. I just got to keep growing. I just can't let me not being a starter stop me from going and being the person, the player that I'm supposed to be. You could end up being the de facto starter halfway through game 1. We've seen quarterbacks get hurt, and the next thing you know, you're the big guy on campus, so to speak. But according to the way this reads, it does look like the agent isn't helping the player. Now, if they were both on the same page here and both saying the same thing, yeah, he's probably getting cut. But at least they both believe the same thing. But you got one person saying one thing, another one saying another. Now, the Colts organizational position in recent months has been Richardson is still the future in Indianapolis, no matter the outcome of the quarterback battle. And remember, Daniel Jones only has a 1-year deal. Now, coaches did say they saw marked improvement in Richardson's technique and accuracy during camp, seeing it as a response to the competitive situation created by Jones signing. And that's what you do a lot of times. They do it all the time with kickers too. You have to do all you can to get them going. So I'll say this. And maybe, and I didn't see any Colts games. Maybe Daniel Jones did better in those joint practices and in games. I don't know. But just because Daniel Jones is a starter in week 1 doesn't mean Anthony Richardson doesn't have a chance of taking over, for example, week 2 or week 7, or whether Daniel Jones plays bad or he gets hurt, one or the other. Or they decide Daniel Jones is the next coming of Peyton Manning face. And you have to get rid of him. Or Eli Manning face, my bad. But you get the idea. So Jackson reiterated that Richardson's playmaking ability makes him a viable quarterback in the league, something he believes was proved when Richardson led 2 late-season game-winning drives in the final minutes. Okay. But I think you need to realize that even though that's your guy and you're making money off of him, you have to look at the whole picture. And I think this is just, it's not anything that tells you, it doesn't tell you that you're not going to get the job. I mean, there's always a possibility you can be the starting quarterback, even if it's week 2, or you have to wait till week 7 or whatever. But Daniel Jones, and I've said here, and I said this as well. I said as a joke, and that's why, and the thing is, I will joke around with you guys, and I will joke around online, and I'll joke around even when Mike's here or whatever. Like, for example, today, we're talking in our Slack chat with my job at Redacted. One of the managers said, today is National Soft Ice Cream Day. And I said, everywhere except McDonald's, because their machines are always broken. Well, not the one around the corner from me, because I actually got an ice cream from there a couple of weeks ago, because I had a free cone with the McDonald's app. But yeah, so I would definitely say this. If I'm Anthony Richardson, I would talk to the agent. If he truly is, if Richardson is thinking exactly what he said in the to the press today, if he truly feels this, then okay, well, let's move on from this. Because if the agent continues to talk like this, he's not going to have a job, because we can't have something like this on our team. There's a reason why he was benched before. This time was just because they felt Daniel Jones gives him a better chance to win right now, or a better chance at the first round draft pick if Arch Manning goes pro. But either way, it could be a long season for Indianapolis this year, especially if Daniel Jones is going to be there the whole year as the starting quarterback. So I need to get a couple more sounds on here, partially because of Out of the Park Baseball when I start streaming that in a couple of weeks. I said I was going to start it tomorrow, but I have to do a couple of things. But, I know I could have used one of those sound drops tonight, but I didn't because I don't have it set up. But it is what it is. So, but I do have to give the Seattle Mariners one of those. As they were able to come back from a 4-1 deficit to tie the game in the 7th, and then JT Realmuto hit a ball really, really hard, and that led to a 6-4 win. Joan Duran got the win there with a 102-mile-an-hour strikeout of fastball strikeout of Cal Raleigh to end the game, and Phillies will will hold their ground here at the very least tonight. They will still be 5.5 as the Mets cruise past the Nationals 8-1 tonight. So as of right now, the Phillies are 5.5 games up on the New York Mets, 14 on the Marlins. So it's basically a 2-team race. Marlins kind of dick teased us for a little bit there, and then they went in the shitter. But if we have the division set up that I mentioned before, we would have a hell of a division race right now. Because if you remember my division alignment from last night, the division would have been Blue Jays, Yankees, Red Sox, Phillies, and Mets. Well, the Phillies and Blue Jays right now would be 73 and 53. So And I see what Mike's doing there. Is Danny Dimes worth a nickel to a Colts? I guess so. Well, it's only costing $14 million, so it's not affecting their cap too much. But Phillies are still 5.5 up. They go for the sweep tomorrow afternoon down at the ballpark. Now I brought this up last night, and I said to Mike about Victor Robles. We know he's going to get suspended. We just don't know how they do it with a guy being on the disabled list. Well, I have those answers for you here. And it kind of makes sense. So he received a 10-game suspension today and an undisclosed fine for his conduct during the top of the third inning of a game Sunday at AAA, where he was on a rehab assignment, according to Major League Baseball. Tacoma was playing in Vegas. Joey Estes threw a first pitch that was way inside. Victor Robles took a swing at the ball because he was protecting himself, and it hit him. So Robles took a couple of steps behind the plate and then flung the bat at Estes, which led to an automatic ejection. Mike, do I have to clip this? Is he admitting that my team is superior? He actually believes me. Mickey actually believes me for it. But anyways, so Victor Robles got 10 games. So I said to Mike during last night's show, I said, how's this going to start? Because he's on the disabled list. I'm sorry, the injured list. We can't use the word disabled anymore. Thankfully, Major League Baseball hasn't gone the way of PETA and calling the bullpens arm barns, but I digress with that. But so Robles kind of had a reason to be upset, even though he lost his cool and shouldn't have done what he did. He was hit by a pitch 3 times in the previous 4 games with Tacoma. And if they were one after the other, like I think they were, the way they do minor league baseball now with the scheduling, because they keep the teams from traveling too much. So what they do is they have a 6-game series. Monday is the day off. It's the technical travel day. And they go, in Tacoma's case, I imagine they went from Tacoma to Vegas. And since they're a AAA Pacific Coast League team, they probably flew down there because that is 2.5, 3-hour flight. I've done that SeaTac to Vegas trip before, or the other way around even. But I can understand being upset because you got hit by pitches 3 times in the previous 4 games, all against Vegas, probably. And I say probably because he's probably playing every game, or they may be 1 game on, 1 game off. Okay, then we'll play 2 games in a row, 1 game off. But I imagine all 4 games were that. And Mickey says he should have got more than 10 games. Yeah. But the one thing I will say is, and this is the case with any union office or shop, or even in Major League Baseball, You always have to use the structure that you have with, what you've done, and also past practice. Even though he might have been suspended in the past for whatever reason, the severity brings it up a couple of notches. The fact that he threw a bat, you're probably going to get 3, 4, 5 games for charging the mound. But you could severely injure the pitcher if you throw it and he's not paying attention to you and he gets hit in the head with that bat. So, but, in some cases, you have past precedents. You may have history with any other suspensions he may have had. There's all kinds of different factors that are involved there. And also, I mentioned last night, before the year 2000, the American League president and his office would have taken care of this. But since you have interleague play and they dissolved the legal entities as the American and National League, and thus why I gave you the my geographic realignment even for next year if they wanted to do it. You have to realize that you have to take into account every detail when it comes to a union office. Appeal is the same thing as a grievance. And depending upon the collective bargaining and the rules of the league and the players and whatever, they have agreements to how they handle this case. Now, I personally think, and he's already appealed it, Mickey. If this had been 15, 20, 25 games, for example, let's say he connected and Joey Estes got injured. Guarantee it's a lot more than 10 games. But I also think because it's 15, 20, 25 games, whatever they would have given if he had connected and actually injured the pitcher, I'm sure you would have had his rehab assignment ends right now. We're going to have this hearing right now. And we're going to resolve this. Whereas even now, and one of the great things about COVID that happened, I know you're saying, what's so great about COVID? Trust me, nothing's great about COVID in terms of the actual virus. But the one thing we learned is technology can be our friend. You don't need to have him fly from Seattle to New York, or you have to wait till the next time Seattle goes to New York if they're going to New York the rest of this year. Or you make a side trip if they were off on Thursday, for example, to go to New York when Seattle was in Philly up until tomorrow. You don't need to have a decision to have this done when he's in New York. If there's one good thing that we got out of COVID, is the fact that we have video conferencing. trust me, it's great with my job at Redacted and the union I'm with, because with the union I'm in, we're spread out over 2 states. And the Pennsylvania portion, we're hundreds of miles apart. We have one meeting, it's on Zoom, and we talk. You know, here's what's come up in the previous meetings. Here's what came up in our meeting in New Jersey. Here's what's coming up in the next couple of months, blah, blah, blah. We're informed as long as we go to the meeting. So, but in a lot of cases, you just have to, and especially in this case, what may happen is whoever's going to represent him in his appeal case, also known as grievance, they'll present the case and they'll say, well, we think 10 is too much. Here's this person getting suspended. Here's this person getting suspended. It's a first offense. It's this, it's that. And MLB will make their decision. And he may get it down to 7. But what you may see happen, if they drag it out long enough, and this happens from time to time, like, for example, let's say, for example, tomorrow, Jordan Romano hits somebody with a pitch. Okay? And it starts a bench clearing ball. And let's pretend Jordan Romano was worth something. Because I guarantee you, if he got suspended 3 games, the Phillies may be saying, can we have more with the way he's pitched this year? But the point is, a lot of times what happens is, let's say the schedule's reversed. Let's say the Phillies were playing the Mets this weekend, and they were playing the Nationals next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Mets are in the race. And let's pretend Jordan Romano was actually worth a damn this year. Jordan Romano can say, I'm appealing. And then when the Mets series is over and they go to play the Nationals, who are 50 and 75, 25 games under 500, 22 and a half games out of first, less than 0.1 chance of making the playoffs according to ESPN's playoff predictor. That may be a time where you say, well, I dropped my appeal. I'll take my 3 games now. That happens a lot in baseball. Or there's an expedited case where, okay, well, you're still getting 3 games, but you're going to miss one of these Mets games because we just finished this case. But here's the question here's what I was saying to Mike last night. I was mentioning how I don't know how they would start this suspension, because I think there was a pitcher, and I think it was Chris Bosio, who used to pitch for the Mariners, and I think he was actually with Milwaukee at the time. He got suspended, but in that game that he got tossed, or wherever he got injured, I think it was. And I thought what they did with him was he had to pitch in a game in order to start the suspension, I think. And also maybe different between pitchers and batters. I don't know. But here's what's happening with Robles' suspension. The suspension is to be effective on the first day Robles returns to the Mariners' active roster. He's been recovering from a shoulder injury that he had back in April. So, and like Mickey said here, and and I mentioned before, he's appealing 10 games. So let's say he comes back on Friday. Just out of the blue comment. Because I think because the Mariners have been on the East Coast, I think they're off tomorrow, on Thursday. Yes, they are. And they go home to play the A's on Friday night. Okay. So let's say he comes back on Friday night. I don't know what his situation is in terms of rehab and everything else. So let's pretend. Because he's appealed his suspension, he's available to the team on Friday. Or they may have the appeal on Friday where they say, oh, well, guess what? You're going to sit for 10 days starting tonight because your appeal is denied and you're not getting a reduction or anything like that. But if he's still rehabbing, he gets to rehab some more. Because like I told Mike last night, and this is why out of the park baseball is such a great thing, because it plays within the parameters of Major League Baseball. Like, for example, the injured list. I keep calling it the disabled list because it's been the disabled list since day one of my life. The injured list, position players are 10 games, pitchers are 15 games. You don't have a concussion protocol in there, but usually with a concussion, it'll usually be 10 games anyway. And you have the 60-day DL or IL when somebody's going to be out a couple of months, and that opens up a 40-man spot. But in the rehab process, a position player gets 20 days of rehab, up to, depending on how serious the injury is. And a pitcher gets 30 days, which means if he's going to start, if he's a starter, he gets up to 5 or 6 starts. So there is all kinds of stuff here that could be here. So I don't know how many more games he's going to be playing in the minors. But matter of fact, I can see one thing here. Let me see the injury report here. Now, this is ESPN, so he is appealing, but it doesn't say how much more he'll be out. So I don't know how long he's going to be on rehab. But however long he's on his rehab assignment, he'll be able to rehab without any repercussions of that. It's once he steps steps his foot back in on a major league field, that's when it will start, depending on the appeal process, when that appeal gets heard. So just looking for one thing here. I can't find it here. Okay, so right now, the estimated return date, and I'm looking at tomorrow's matchup, Phillies and Mariners. They have an injury report here. It says here, Victor Robles, 60-day DL, expected return date September 11th. That's ESPN saying that. So he can still rehab in the minors. But he's also got to be on his P's and Q's, because he does something there, then he's going to get more time, and it will defeat the ability of that first appeal, because guess what? Not only did you do this, now you did this, which gets you another 10 or 15 more games. But so so depending on how long he's there, and now mind you, Mickey's in the Pacific Northwest, and we may see him back sooner than September 11th. That's just something I saw just quickly on ESPN because I had that tab up. But that's he admitted he did wrong. I think when you're sitting there in the locker room after the game or during the game, he probably took a shower early and everything. Like, yeah, I really fucked up. So, but I'm still going to appeal because I think 10 games is too much. Or it's just the fact that you have a right to appeal. So he gets 10 games, and we'll see what happens with that. That appeal may be heard before he gets up to the majors, but according to ESPN, they're estimating the return of September 11th, but they're also estimating Zach Wheeler is going to be back September 15th. I don't see that happening. But let me just see one thing here. I'm going to go to the Seattle Mariners site itself here. Roster. Yeah, it doesn't really say anything on here. Yeah, so he's. I mean, with the type of injury that he had with his shoulder, he's probably going to be there for a while. So they'll probably take advantage of the full time that he's down there that he would get. So, yeah, he got what he deserved there for the most part. So, now the one thing is, he is playing. Because it said his next game is tomorrow, but I imagine that they're playing right now or just about to start. They have to let him play because of the fact that all the minor league teams have to be associated with a parent club in the MLB. Those 4 levels: single A, high A, double A, triple A. And, if he was a minor league player who wasn't on a 40-man roster or wasn't rehabbing because of an injury, yeah, he then would be suspended by the Pacific Coast League. But if Seattle decided, oh, we don't like what you did, you're getting released, that's an automatic grievance because you're just, instead of just letting the league take its course and suspending, you're going above and beyond and saying, oh, you're no longer a part of this team. You can't just discipline and say you're gone. But I think he may be playing tonight, but it did say something about tomorrow. So I think that may be because the game's about to start there, if it hasn't started already out there. Because I think Tacoma's home this week. So I'm going to let you behind the curtain a little bit here as we go to our next topic here. If you notice on the far, I'm looking at myself and I'm pointing the opposite way. So that bottom area here on your toolbar, there we go. That right there on the bottom, extreme bottom left-hand side. Mine tells me right now it's partly cloudy, 67 degrees. If you hover over that, you get the latest stories and different things that, a lot of things, you get the top news stories, you get weather, you get all this shit. So I saw a story last night that Ketel Marte could be on the trading block. And I said, that'd be interesting. And the contract isn't too bad. He's only making about $14 million a year. Now, granted, there's a couple of years where he's making closer to 20, but it averages out to about 14, 15 a year. Well, after seeing this, I'm not so sure. Because the one thing that you will definitely see and hear about the Phillies is they have some great clubhouse chemistry. And I know maybe they can, if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, maybe the Phillies themselves, the team, not the upper management, but the actual players, they can probably reel him in if he needs to. But he's been criticized a lot this year, despite having one of the best seasons of his career on the field. So he apologized through an interpreter yesterday for missing 3 games following the All-Star break after flying back to his home in the Dominican Republic, a situation that apparently had been festering in the clubhouse over the past month. So, first of all, this wasn't resolved right away. This may be why Arizona is under 500 and probably one of the bigger disappointments in the National League. But so the 31-year-old said he initially expected to return to Phoenix immediately following the break, but was frustrated and in a bad spot after he learned his residence in Scottsdale had been burglarized during the break, according to an interpreter. So I don't know. Now, I understand, you're getting burglarized, and this has been on the rise with athletes. Because, and the one thing I've said to you guys in the past, it's very easy to see when certain players are going to be out of town because all you have to do is look at the schedule. You can scout out his home. Hey, Ketel Marte is going to be out of town for the next week. Oh, Arizona's on the East Coast. Yeah, we'll stop by his house. But so according to interpreter, he was frustrated and in a bad spot. Okay. So the D-backs were playing a crucial stretch of games because they were trying to determine, are we contenders? Are we pretenders? Are we buying? Are we selling? Well, they ended up selling. So they were fighting for playoff positioning ahead of the deadline and trying to figure out, do we sell? Do we not? But they placed Marte on the restricted list for the first 2 games of his absence, and then he didn't play a third game after returning to the club. Now, I don't know who lives at the house with him, so there may have been something going on that we don't know of. But one of the criticisms is that he takes too many games off. And trust me, I've experienced that because I have him on my fantasy baseball team. And also the MLB game that's on the app, Beat the Streak. I've used him a couple of times. It's like, he's not playing today. But if these are legitimate injuries, then so be it. But then again, we're living in a city where Joel Embiid and Paul George play, and they're always hurt, allegedly. So, he's Marte did say he's dealt with injury issues and is following a plan designed by by the training staff. Okay. Now, are they saying what the Sixers said to Joel Embiid last year and said, "Oh, you're not going to be playing any more back-to-back games." You know, are they saying to him, "Well, we don't want you playing too many games in a row"? But the thing is, if he's playing too many games in a row, isn't that what the designated hitter is for? If you think about it, I mean, the designated hitter, the way it was being used originally in the American League, especially from like 80s and 90s and early 2000s, it was some old guy who couldn't play the field anymore. Now, me being the visionary that I am, even though I hate the designated hitter because it's an excuse to not be a complete player. The Steve Carltons, the Larry Christensens, the Dontrell Willises, the Fernando Valenzuelas, who can hit, the Cliff Lees, the ones that can hit for being a pitcher. Where, I mean, you're not talking smack on the field, automatic out, when you're in Little League. I mean, if you were saying that like you were saying when Major League Baseball, if you were saying something like that in Major League Baseball, then the next thing you know, these guys are hitting home runs off you, or they're getting on base. But the way I envisioned the designated hitter, especially with the way the Phillies were being built in 2022, and the way that I would use the designated hitter, I would love to use the designated hitter in baseball as, okay, Kyle Schwarber, you're the DH for this game. Nick Castellanos, you're this day. Bryce Harper, you're this day. JT Realmuto, you're this day. And just rotate it. Mickey asks, I have a question on the previous topic of Victor Robles. Could the manager of Tacoma tell the player, pack your crap and go back to Seattle? No, he's actually stuck on what the parent team is doing. And one of the functions of a minor league system is a farm system like we have in Major League Baseball, in professional baseball, is the fact that if somebody gets hurt, they get time to ramp themselves back up. Even, for example, Jose Alvarado, who returned tonight but didn't pitch, even though he was suspended 80 games, it's in the agreement, the PED agreement, whatever you want to call it. He gets time, as any person who has an 80-game suspension. He gets time to ramp up in the minor leagues. So that would cause a lot of problems and probably be a grievance against the parent club because, you're allowing him to tell me to go kick rocks. And the great thing is with being, like, for example, with Tacoma being right down the 5 from Seattle, he doesn't have to get a hotel for a couple of weeks, or if he's going to play the whole week this week. He doesn't have to be the guy. He doesn't have to get a hotel for a week because Tacoma and Seattle are so close together geographically. He can sleep in his own bed every night on those home games. Same would be the case with Minneapolis and their AAA team in St. Paul. I mean, they're the Twin Cities. They're right next to each other. Allentown can probably do it. But that is a good question here. But they can't just tell him to go kick rocks. But going back to Ketel Marte, I think they know the Diamondbacks that he's the star player of the team. No doubt about it. But Torey Lovullo, the manager, said, "I know there's an elephant in the room, and I'll just say what I want to say about it. I know that Ketel talked to you guys, and I'm proud of him for doing that. That's not easy for him to do. I know he showed some vulnerability. I'm really proud of him for digging in the way he did. What I'll say about him is all the things I know. He's a great teammate. He's a great young man. He plays hard every single day for the Diamondbacks. He just wants to win baseball games. That's it." Mickey's saying, but I don't think the Phillies sent him down after the 80 games. No. What they did with Jose Alvarado is it's the same as if he had been on the disabled list and he required ramping back up. So he did a rehab assignment with Lehigh Valley. He pitched in 5 different games over a 15-day period. So Marte has dealt with criticism after reporting the Arizona Republic, the newspaper out there. Last week said some of the teammates were frustrated with the second baseman's behavior over the past month, and that his absence after the All-Star break may have partially caused the team's collapse before the trade deadline. And also remember, they're not far removed from upsetting the Phillies in the NLCS. So I will say this. I'm sure many of those guys were showering each other with champagne in the past. So I don't think, and I'm not in the locker room every day, so, they might have seen a change in him over the last year or two. Who knows? But the Arizona won 3 games after the All-Star break, the first 3 games that Marte missed. They swept the Cardinals and then lost 9 of 10 when he returned to the lineup. Now, I'm not going to look at the schedule and see who those teams are, but, sometimes it's just luck of the draw. And I've said this a lot of times. Sometimes when it comes to, it's the same in most sports. It's a matter of catching the team at the right time. One thing I will always tell you, let's say the Nationals lose all 3 games to the Mets. So that means they would have lost 4 in a row. Let's say that losing streak was about 7, 8, 9. That's when I don't want to face the Nationals because they're due to win a game. And baseball is a type of sport where you're due to win a game. You're due to get 10 runs in a game like the Phillies did against the Nationals on Sunday. You're due to have the bats wake up. You're due for your bats to go cold. You're due to give up a 3-run homer, things like that. But Marte's hitting .297 with 23 home runs and 56 RBIs. He's a 3-time All-Star with the organization since 2017 and was the key to their run to the World Series. But I admit, if I'm trading for him, if he is available in the offseason, because you can't trade for him now. If Arizona decided to put him on waivers, yeah, that's something different, but he's not going to be around with the Phillies decide to claim him. Because the way that the waivers work, you go from you go with the team with the worst record and you go to the team with the top record, one by one. If that top team doesn't want them, then the second team, then the third team, then the fourth, and then you go all the way down to 30. Nobody claims all 30. Well, you can do whatever with them. But also remember, you don't have that second trade deadline now. You just have the one deadline. But if I were to trade for him, I would definitely say I'd keep an eye on him. Because it seems like there's something going on, and I would investigate it first. So now on to something else here. And we're going to be going back and forth here with like different things that I'm sharing here. So I'm going to share this one thing, and this is from John Boy Media, and it substantiates my point that if the Phillies ever sign Tommy Pham, I'm going down to Citizens Bank Park and I'm beating the living crap out of Dave Dombrowski or whoever's in charge of the team or whoever decided to sign him. Now, we didn't discuss this last night because we didn't know about this. I saw it on SportsCenter because, oh, by the way, Rich Eisen was on SportsCenter last night. He did his own show. They did a show almost like the old way they used to do SportsCenter with him, and when he was with Stuart Scott and Dan Patrick and a couple of the other guys he hosted with at the time. Now, part of it was a promotional thing because his radio show, the Rich Eisen Show, is going to ESPN Radio in September. Now, I did see there that Tommy Pham instigated another bench clearing incident because he over a walk. Now you're saying, oh, bat flip over a walk? Well, part of the reason why he flipped the bat was because the catcher, Tyler Heineman, was complaining about balls and strikes. Or as Tommy Pham said on Twitter or X, bitching about it. So I just think Tommy Pham is a cancer. And I want no parts of him on my team. So if you want him, you can have him. I want no parts of him. So I'm going to play this video. This is from John Boy Video. And I'll let you decide for yourself because John Boy did a great thing here. And they're showing other incidents that he had. So let me share my screen here. And here we go.
It's another Tommy Pham video. He bat flipped a walk last night after he claimed that Tyler Heineman was seemingly upset that he didn't get this ball 3 called a strike. Tommy turned around and subsequently had some choice words for Tyler that ended up causing the benches to clear. Tyler was not sure exactly what happened. Tommy took to Twitter to say that he was not happy that Tyler bitched about a ball not being called a strike. He also said that it's disrespectful to not only the umpire, but the player. Added to the
I got to bring myself back in there. In a close game, I think this was later in the game, catchers are working the umpires to get the calls, especially in this time frame, because guess what? They're trying to win the game. And they're doing whatever they can. And Toronto is leading the division right now. So here's other instances that Tommy Pham was being Tommy Pham and showed that he's a cancer on and off the field.
The list. Tommy's also been in some hot water for saying that he does a lot of fighting in the offseason too, because he's
prepared to fuck somebody up.
Slapping Jock Peterson in the face before a ball game in late 2022 because Jock sent a GIF that was making fun of the Padres in a fantasy football group chat, doing this to an Angel fan in the crowd earlier this season.
Says hello to the crowd, but
he has a knack for heckling with baseball fans.
Go strike out. Go strike out.
Getting in an altercation with somebody outside of a strip club and getting stabbed. Telling Luke Voigt to meet him at a gym where he knows the owner who would let him use it. Saying that they can fight in whatever way they want.
Muay Thai, whatever.
This is another Tommy Pham video.
So I'll tell you this. He may be a model teammate in the clubhouse. But do I want somebody who's telling somebody to go jerk off or telling a fan, whatever he was saying there in Pittsburgh when he was with Arizona or any of that stuff? No. I mean, he causes brawls. I think he's mentally unstable. I'm not going to play a doctor, but there's something not right with him. If you want Tommy Pham, go right ahead. I just think that he ruins the clubhouse chemistry, because now you got to back up a guy who a lot of people will say
he's an asshole.
So say what you want about Tommy Pham. I don't want him on my team. And thankfully we didn't have him rumored to come here this trade deadline. But he was rumored a couple of times here, and no way in hell do I want him on this team. And I don't know how many times he's been fined or whatever for incidents like this, but it's getting old. And I just don't want him on my team. He's there to fuck things up, and he slaps Jock Peterson upside the head because of fantasy football. Actually, the reporting on that was wrong on John Boy, because it was allegedly a fantasy football gripe that he had the previous year. So, but it might have been a GIF, not a GIF. It's a GIF. And like Mike says here, the last thing you want to do is disrupt clubhouse chemistry. Bingo. And the Phillies have clubhouse chemistry. It's just that they just get junk balled to death in the playoffs like the Mets did last year. But I don't think you want anybody who is going to ruin that chemistry. Even if whether it's just he acts good in the clubhouse, but he acts like an asshole on the field. Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
He's an asshole.
And, and you're making these comments and hand gestures to the fans. No, don't want them. Don't want them at all. that was definitely something I saw, and it substantiates my point even more, because some people said, "Oh, we need a guy who can hit and field and all that." No, not a guy who's going to tell you this. Not a guy who is mentally unstable, who thinks everything is, oh, well, let's fight Muay Thai. Well, let's fight UFC or MMA. Let's fight this way. We'll fight any way possible. No, grow up. But don't want anything to do with Tommy Pham. And that substantiates my point even more from last night when he instigated the benches clearing. This one?
He's an asshole.
Mike was saying that about me last night. I said, Mike, you don't even have to say that anymore, because I can just do this.
He's an asshole.
And over time, I'm going to have more. And I'm also going to have the end of the Dennis Leary song where Dennis Leary says I'm an asshole, and I'm proud of it. Like, for example, what I can do now is I can combine. I can go from...
Who the fuck is that guy? He's an asshole.
So, hey, Connor, what do you think of Tommy Pham?
Who the fuck is that guy? He's an asshole.
And I'm going to be adding to the list over time, so we'll be getting that. We'll be getting more and more. So, hey! You cannot call Mike an asshole. I just remember, I can put you in timeout on YouTube if I wanted to, but I won't. But now I can't even. I pulled up the out of park baseball thing on accident. But so I got one more thing here for you, and I saw this a couple of times. I saw these posts a couple of times. I decided to join the group, or I joined the group beforehand, and it finally reached my algorithm. So this is from Gotwood Baseball, and I will share this in a moment. Oh, dear Jesus, thank you very much, Mickey, because I'm a cute asshole. But Michael J. Fox agrees with me.
He's an asshole.
And I'm sure that voice will get me banned from Twitch and whatever, because I'm a little sensitive. But anyways, so the guy that runs Gotwood Baseball, and no, I don't got wood right now because it's I'm not watching porn. Seriously though, what they do is they have these videos, and he tells his followers, what's your decision on this? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen again, and God, let me see here. No, it's not working. Okay. Oh, wait. I think I know what to do here. Hold on. There we go. A little bit better, but not that much. No, I didn't want to do that yet. Hold on. Okay, so that's not going to do. Okay, so this is the best I'm going to get it. And just to let you know, bases loaded, 1 out. Watch everything that's happening on this and we'll answer this question. Does this run count? Here we go. I'll play it one more time, and I'll let this guy explain it too as well. So we'll play it again, and bases loaded, 1 out, guy bunts. So I'll play this again, and you guys can make a decision if you haven't already in chat.
Okay, so bases are loaded, 1 out. It's a squeeze play with the bases loaded, and the batter bunts the ball. Pitcher makes an unbelievable play, catches the ball, dives for it, catches it, gets up, doubles off the runner at first base. He's out. Inning over, that's 3 outs. But the run scored before the 3rd out was recorded at first base. So does this run count? Again, squeeze play, everyone's running, bases loaded, 1 out. Pitcher catches the ball in the air for the 2nd out of the inning, throws it to first, doubles off the runner, he's out. That's 3 outs. But the run scored before that out happened at first. So does the run count or not? That's the question. Let me know. Let's go.
I'll play the beginning of this one more time here so you guys can make a decision one final time. Now, I purposely stopped it right there. So it was like about half a second to a second after he caught the ball. Now you see there, the umpire at home plate calls it an out, caught it in the air. Now, we can tell from this video on a squeeze play, okay, on the squeeze play, he does not tag up. So you're telling me you're questioning if that run scores or not? The only way that run counts, no, Mickey.
He's an asshole.
You're the asshole. No, seriously. This is the same play that occurred, and I probably shouldn't have unsaved this. This is almost the same thing that occurred last year in Detroit. If you remember when the Phillies played the Detroit Tigers at Comerica Park last year. Here we go. And this is the closest thing that I could find to something similar to that play that they showed here. So here you go.
Broke his bat, loops it right back to the mound. Harper will get the double play, and now they'll throw it to third for a triple play. Wow.
You don't see this happen very often, folks, and he did a nice job. I don't know what McKinstry was thinking.
Unless he thought it bounced before it got to the mounds.
He thought.
So that's the closest play that I could think of off the top of my head. Okay. So here's the thing. This would be the same if it were a fly ball to center to one of the outfielders. And matter of fact, this almost came up last night where Max Kepler was doing his Jimmy Rollins impression and lollygagging it to the plate. It almost didn't make it to the plate in time because one of the other runners almost got out. But the difference here is with any ball that's caught in the air, in order to advance, you have to tag up. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he scored or not, because he has to retreat back to third base. And we're in this gray area now where he did touch home plate. And the video games that I played, and Mike is agreeing with me, or he's agreeing that Mickey's an asshole. I think it's the former, not the latter. And I know this from playing video games. And I don't know this little gray area that I'm talking about here. If you cross home plate, can you go back to third base? I don't know about that part. But, and there's probably some hidden rule that makes Mickey right. Because, oh, you didn't go to third base. But the point is, he has to tag up to advance. And he has to go back to third. So, kind of like that, I mean, that play I just showed you from the Phillies game last year, that's the closest thing that I could find. And the thing is, the only difference is we don't know if the umpire ruled that the run scored or not. Because conveniently, with those videos, we have, we don't know what the actual decision was. So we may see what happened. And we see the great catch to throw the first, which is, and who knows, he may throw the first. He may throw the first. And oh, by the way, the ball gets thrown away. But then you have to worry about, did the first baseman, the guy that was on first base, did he touch first base? The guy at second does touch second, I believe. So he can advance. But there's so many different variables that could happen here. But the fact, Pork Chop, welcome in. So Pork Chop, just to let you know, Mike is saying with a squeeze bunt, the ball is in play. But the only difference is the ball doesn't touch the ground. It would be the same as if I bunted and I bunted too hard and a little too high, and the shortstop got it. It's still a pop-up, fly ball, whatever, that never touched the ground, So you have to tag up. Because this would be the same if I was a left-handed hitter and a guy's coming in. But that's why they call it a suicide squeeze, because if you miss the bunt, you hit it to another player, you hit it to a guy in the field, whether it's a bunt or a line drive or anything like that, you have to tag up. And I'll show Pork Chop this video here, and he may not know what the ruling is. And that's fine. But this is the video that we're discussing here, just to let him know what's going on here.
Okay, so bases are loaded, 1 out. It's a squeeze play with the bases loaded, and the batter bunts the ball. Pitcher makes an unbelievable play, catches the ball, dives for it, catches it, gets up, doubles off the runner at first base. He's out. Inning over, that's 3 outs. But the run scored before the 3rd out was recorded at first base. So does this run count? Again, squeeze play, everyone's running, bases loaded, 1 out. Pitcher catches the ball in the air for the 2nd out of the inning, throws it to first, doubles off the runner, he's out. That's 3 outs. But the run scored before that out happened at first. So does the run count or not? That's the question. Let me know. Let's go.
So that's what we're talking about, Pork Chop. Yeah. And, and there's no shame in this, so don't give Pork Chop any shit over this. Yeah, I got no clue. I played men's lacrosse during boys baseball season. That's fine. But I just wanted to let you know what we're talking about here. So many people are saying on Facebook, oh, that's the run scores and blah, 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 blah. Well, he's got to tag up because that's a ball caught in the air. But I told one guy, I'm trying to understand your Special Olympics bizarro world that rules that you're mentioning here. So, but the video that I showed is the closest thing I could find, and the run does score, but they made the 3rd out at 3rd base. So, but I just wanted Pork Chop to know what we're talking about here, because we're in this final topic here tonight. So, and I'm sure, but the thing is, the person who uploaded this video, whether it's just a YouTube or, hey, watch this great play by the pitcher, and you don't realize the guy's coming in from 3rd. Now, what he should have done, whether you agree with me or not, and this is just force of habit, I guess. He went to 1st. He had the option going to 3rd, and then we get into that gray area because it is a ball that's caught in the air. We're in this gray area because he has to retreat back to 3rd base, but he touched home plate. And a lot of times when you touch home plate in video games, this is where out of the park baseball comes in and everything else. So when you're looking at the different things here, can the runner who touched home plate touch home plate again and try to make it back to 3rd base to touch the bag, to tag 3rd base? or get back to third base. Because we see there in the background, the runner that was on second base decided or did the right thing and said, hey, I got to get back. Even though I'm not far off the base, I got to touch second base. And he did. But also, we don't have that expansive view because, we're talking about Little League, American Legion, high school, whatever it's supposed to be. But it's probably some vague rule. And also, keep in mind, different levels of sports have different rules. Like, for example, in college, don't even be near the bag when they're trying to slide into base, because if you're this much blocking the bag, oh, you're interfering. So it's definitely something we need to look at more. But in my opinion, that's a double play. The run doesn't score. But what do I know? But I'm 99.99999% sure. Kind of like those tests that Maury Povich had, where the labs determine within this percent of one, this much of 1% that you're not the father. I'm not that far from saying I'm 100% true, 100% right. So I think I'm, pretty damn confident that run does not count. But you probably got some goofy ass rule that does this. And also, I'll ask this question. And I know Mike would be pulling the rest of my hair out on top of his hair out if the Phillies did this. Why the fuck are you doing a suicide squeeze with the bases loaded? Maybe there's some bizarro world at this level, bizarro world rule in this level of baseball that you can do something like this and score a run. I don't know. But there may be some bizarre world at this level where it says, oh, well, he didn't go to third base, so that run scores. But I'm going to argue because that ball was caught in the air, he has to retreat back to third base. And also, if this was Major League Baseball, even if I'm as bad a tactician as this coach or manager was, that he said suicide squeeze, and it may have been and Mike knows I don't have much hair left, see? And sometimes you go against the grain and you do something that even the analytics say, no way in fucking hell do you try this. Well, that's how the Eagles won Super Bowl 52. Because who in the hell in their right mind would thought that the Phillies would do the Phillies special on a fourth down in the near the end zone? But I digress. But but the thing is, in high school or whatever, you're going to see some goofy shit like this because guess what? You're trying to get a leg up on your competition doing things that you don't even see in Major League Baseball. And probably he might even be your best hitter for all you know. So why? And it could have been And it happened to me once. Let's say this is hit away, and let's say this is the bunt. After you give a key like this, So, and the thing is, the coaches are telling you, hey, you got to look at me before you take that next pitch. He's going like this, hit away. It's like, no shit. That's what I expected from you. But, maybe even the kid at the plate read the wrong sign. He interpreted it wrong. There's also no reason why this kid should be bunting with the bases loaded. I don't care what inning it is. I don't care if it's the 13th inning. I doubt it's the 13th inning with the way that the sunlight was there. But who knows? Maybe it was a game in Alaska during the summer solstice where they had sun 24 hours a day. But on top of that, why the hell are you squeezing with the bases loaded? It made 0 sense as well. But I am 99.9999999999998% sure I'm right here. I'm not going to say 100%, but I'm pretty damn sure that that is a double play. Run does not score because, but there's probably some goofy ass rule that says, oh, you went to the wrong base. It's kind of like this one guy that used to give me a hard time about baseball years ago. And actually, I think it was when I used to play Yahoo games many years ago. He goes, tie game, 2 out, second and third, and the batter gets a base hit. Well, first of all, if you're the manager of the team that's playing the field on defense, you're probably walking the guy because guess what? You get a force at any base. But probably Charlie Manuel managing for the Phillies. So he goes second and third. You're the guy at second base. And you get a base, and there's a base hit to win the game. What are you doing? I said, even though the actual thing to do is go to second and third, the genius that's me does not go anywhere because first base is open. I technically do not have to advance. But he goes, oh, no, you got to go to third. No, I don't. The only thing that matters is, does the batter reach first base and does the guy at third reach home? I'm an insignificant runner here. I'm insignificant as long as those two things happen where the batter reaches first and the guy at third base reaches home. But, but that was me earlier today. And, some of the things that people are like, oh, no, oh, you're wrong. I'm like, no. But but that Facebook group, it's almost like watching The Price is Right for special ed. You're watching The Price is Right. And and you're the third person in the group. First person bids $800. The second person bids $1,000. The third person, who doesn't realize how to really play the game, or is just there so he can get some lovely parting gifts and turtle wax, says, oh, 1001. Well, guess what? Because you're not the last person in this rotation, that final person can say 1002 and say, haha, I won, if it's anything 1003 or higher. It's kind of like, you know, and you see this once in a while on The Price is Right, because I just seem like it's just everything that I hate about America, with the fact that people don't think anymore. And it's not a Trump thing. It's not this thing. It's not that thing. It's just Americans just don't think anymore. They don't use common sense. You go there on The Price is Right. You know, you're the second person, you're bidding $1. Come on. If the third person bids too high, or I feel it's too high, well, and the first person I feel bid too high, well, guess what? The person that bid $1 is going to get outbid by me because I'm bidding $2. So, but, you know, I don't know if my Facebook friends list, I don't know if my Facebook list has anybody who is a umpire. I don't think I do. This is where I wish I did. And it would also test my list to see if maybe, because I know I have one guy who's a baseball coach. He coaches at Chestnut Hill College here in Philadelphia. I wonder if he, but I got a couple guys that have played baseball and have coached, but, you know, I'm sure they would know and probably fall into the 0.1% that's saying I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. But, you know, kind of like in Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. But anyway, so I got to slip in some videos there and got to do different things there. So just a reminder, I am off tomorrow. Well, I'm off every day mentally. And if I had a rim shot, I would have given you that. But I'm live Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, on these same bat channels. The Bleacher Brothers show will be back next Thursday, the 27th. I don't know when the start's going to be, so we'll find that out next week. But they're back. And I also have this second show called Also Eligible, where I will be live on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, on most of these same channels. I'm just not on my Twitch. I end up going to my YouTube on this. But we'll be looking at the races from Saratoga this Saturday. And I already have the title for the show to catch some eyes. It's, I proved Carly Simon wrong. My horse didn't win. Because naturally you went up to Saratoga, and of course your horse naturally won. Well, the title's probably going to be something along the lines of, "Hey, Carly Simon, you're wrong. My horse didn't win," or something like that. But we're going to look at Saratoga. It's Travers weekend. Probably not going to look much at the Travers because it's a 5-horse race with a very heavy favorite. You got only one other horse that I think right now has a good shot at winning this race. So we're going to look at some of those other races. We may sneak other things in. And then next week, I may have a surprise guest on the 30th. And the great news about the 30th, I think that's the 30th, right? Yeah. So the following Saturday, the 30th, I do have the potential of a special guest. And the great news about that is I'm off. So I will have the ability of going 2 hours if I have to. Also, just to look ahead a little bit, and Mike's going to understand this a little bit because he knows some of the ins and outs of my job at Redacted and some of the things we have to do to get a day off, even though we have much less people than when he was there. So we got our schedule today for Labor Day week. So we're off Sunday, we're off Monday. My office is closed. So I looked today at the schedule, and I'm off Saturday the 6th. So I'm looking, and I'm thinking, what day did I request off during the week that I did not get? So, and the thing is, with us using Google Chrome and, having a shared drive, and, the request sheet is a Excel file, Google Sheets, they call it. I'm like, all right, did I not get the day off during the week I want? Now, granted, when I request days off during the week, like I do, the way that I usually do them, I usually do the Wednesday before a weekend that we're open, and I do the Sunday after, or the Tuesday after, because the way that the schedule works out, when you combine the 2-week schedule together, I'm working 5 days. So I'm working a Monday to Friday, even though it's a Thursday to Tuesday. So I got Saturday off. So I'm like, it's not a big deal, but how did I get Saturday off? I don't normally request Saturdays off when I'm working or when my office is open. And I look July 12th because we have to put the date that we did it and the time. And, I'm sure some people fudge. But I pull up the spreadsheet. I requested off Saturday the 6th. And I don't know why. I'm sitting here like between calls for like 20 minutes thinking, why the fuck did I request that Saturday off? I don't know why. Because the following Saturday, I get off automatically because that's the Saturday before my vacation week. Saturday the 13th. And we're closed that weekend anyway. So I'm trying to figure out, and I don't know what it was. I mean, Mike knows the whole requesting day off process that we had back then, and it's a little different now, but it's still basically the same thing. If you want a day off, you have to make sure you put in for it. So I don't know why I requested that Saturday, but I did. And Mike agrees with me. It's just now instead of sheets that you put into a binder, it's, pull up this shared drive on the Google Drive and put your name in. I don't know what I put. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why I requested that day off, but, you know, I'm going to be working. I'm going to be off the 30th, the 6th.
He's an asshole.
Thank you, Mickey. And this is what I have to say to Mickey.
What are you looking at, butthead?
But for whatever reason, I'm off the 30th. I'm off the 6th. I get the 13th off because of vacation and because my office is closed. I get the 20th off because it's a vacation week. Well, I'd be forced to work the 27th anyway if they do the schedule properly, because I haven't worked this Saturday in a month. And my office is open all 7 days that week, so that Sunday I'm off because it's the Sunday after vacation, and I made sure on there it's called BAVAC, before and after the vacation week. So I put on there for Sunday the 21st my name, BAVAC, and then I put on there Wednesday, which is the 24th, and I put on there if office is open 7 days. And the reason why I worded it like that, we had a situation like that in February, and we were open all 7 days, and we were in a weird situation because I took the week before the Super Bowl, week leading into Super Bowl Sunday off, because I was protecting that week in case we were going to go to New Orleans and work Radio Row. But I took off 2 weeks prior because I was going down to Florida so I can work the Pegasus World Cup. So I was all on vacation a week. I worked a week. I was on vacation a week. So I got forced into, I think, Super Bowl Sunday. I'm like, wait a second, we're a 7 day week here. I should be getting that Saturday off. I should be getting that Sunday off, and they had to redo the schedule. But so part of the solution was, for something like that, just let me know, blah, blah, blah. Well, I put on there my name, BAVAC, for before and after the vacation week, so I get that off. So, and then I put it there. So I'm forcing myself into working that Saturday, even though working Saturdays and Sundays while I'm working at home isn't that big of a deal to me. So just do what I have to do to get the money. So hopefully I can even make you guys some money coming up over the next couple of weeks, because this week will be Saratoga. The 30th we'll be looking at Del Mar, and I'm going to sneak in a race with a race from Kentucky Downs, where they have the Nashville Derby, which is a $3.5 million grass race. And I gave Mike some details here, and Mike, do not divulge the information, because if something were to happen and this person were not to be able to come on the show with me, it just turns into a regular show, and I just talk for an hour and a half. But if he does, well, that eliminates half the population, because I said he and not she. So Mike definitely knows it's not anybody in the female variety, and everybody that's watching tonight. If that person, a he, says, yeah, I can hop on the show for a little bit, then we have a special guest that Saturday. And maybe we look at the races together. We look at the one race. Who knows? But But that's a show I do on Saturday mornings. And, you know, especially on my day off, I'm getting up at 7 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. But I digress. So anyways, do appreciate everybody watching tonight. Even Mickey. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Pork Chop. Thank you, everybody who's been watching but have been silent. Hey, I appreciate you guys too, because, you know, you want to consume. But like when I was in school, the way that I learned was consuming without talking, but the problem was the teachers were like, well, you got to participate more. I'm consuming. That's education. But that's a topic for another day. So that's it for this show. And we'll do it live Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. What we'll talk about, I don't know. And we'll be 1 week away from the return of the Super Bowl champions, my team, my town, my Philadelphia Eagles, opening the season against the Dallas Cowboys. But until then, I got to remind Mickey who won tonight. And Thursday night at 9 o'clock. And also check out my articles. We did have a winner today. Now, granted, the other horse that had a chance of winning scratched, and my 2-to-1 shot ended up going 2-to-5. So if you played that, you didn't get shit for money, but you got to win. We'll do it live tomorrow, on Thursday. Check out my articles at brothers.com. Check out Brothers Rolling. So, have a great night, everybody. Catch you guys on.
I'm going home to Philadelphia, back in old PA, to see the greatest team in the USA. Wanna laugh at the fanatic doing his thing. Wanna stand up for the anthem, hear the people sing. I love to shout, it's out of here, that's one they'll never catch. I even love to do the 7th inning stretch. I want to tell everybody that I'm on my way. I'm going back to see the Phillies today. I'm going back to Philadelphia, I'll be living my dream. Back to catch the Phillies, they're my favorite team. You know, I've been to the East, I've been to the West, but Philly has the team that I love the best. I can live without the Yankees and the Dodgers if true. You can keep old Chicago and the Red Sox too. I'm going back to the place where the Phillies play. I'm going back to Philadelphia, PA. I want you to tell everybody that I'm leaving today. I'm going back to Philadelphia, PA. Back to Philadelphia, PA.